Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
All right. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Um, Sorry to hear you're having technical issues. We can all see
Yeah,
you
I'm
and
on
hear
I'm on
you.
this mobile phone and it's somehow getting me crooked or sideways. I'm sorry about the picture tonight, but we're just gonna have to work with content as opposed to beauty.
That's the name of the game. Okay, so we can't really start tonight without talking about recent developments. Um, I think most recently was the announcement that unfortunately has affected shore services, but has affected the whole country in terms of re-entering lockdown come Thursday. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So
so
so all right, let's just discuss where we're at the moment before we even go any further than that. So where we're at the moment is Wednesday night's going to be our final service. We're not going to be having a service on Thursday morning or from there onwards, as I understand it, till either the 2nd or the 5th of December, whenever the end is. That's the earliest that we might be having a service. We could maybe have a service then. It could be that we won't have services past then either, because they're saying if this circuit breaker lockdown doesn't do what it's supposed to do, then we're gonna be in trouble for much longer than we thought we would be.
yeah, I think it's probably necessary at the moment, and they're going to have to monitor it and just see exactly how long it's going to have to continue for. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what they're going to do. And on top of that, what they're going to do also is so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having Zoom services every day, same times. Now we're going to be having Mincha also. So Mondays and Thursdays, 7:15. Wednesday, Tuesday, Friday, 7:30. Sunday, 8 a.m. All on Zoom on the regular Zoom link that we always use. And then on top of that, well, Friday night and Shabbos, we won't be having any services, and we'll have to see what we're going to do. It's going to be a bit of a strange one.
we're going to try and take some time as well. So I'm personally going to try and devote a bit of time to this. But Clive Moss Barkley's fantastic idea that came out of the discussion that we had a few weeks ago together with, I think it was Jane Johnson at the time, suggested it.
Yeah.
But our virtual shrubberies arc is
Yes.
going to be. It's going to be given a breath of life, and Clive has very kindly provided me with his thoughts on it and some sort of a roadmap, if you like, of different things and different topics we could discuss, and different people that we could get involved. And actually, as I reviewed it this evening, it's quite exciting, and I think it's going to take some organization, it's going to take some structure, but I am hoping we can effectively deliver a whole load of virtual content to people over the coming weeks, especially as they'll be. Oh, we've lost the rabbi. Especially as they'll be in lockdown. Hopefully, the rabbi will join us again. But one of the things that Clive had discussed was reintroducing what was once known as the heritage sessions. We're going to be doing that as well. So, Clive, watch the space. I'm going to bring the rabbi back in now.
Sorry, I got kicked off here somehow.
Okay. We'll give it a go. Let's see how where we get to. So yeah, so we stay tuned. We will keep you posted as to progress with that. We need to try and work out the best sort of platform for it and the best sort of way of delivering it to everybody. So I will have some
Yeah.
discussions with Clive Moss Barkley this week, and also yourself, Rabbi, and we will look at a way to sort of bring that forward, because I think
Yeah.
this is, although this is a horrible thing to have to go into lockdown again, it's also sort of a prime opportunity to sort of trial new ways of reaching people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So a lot of things will be announced via the WhatsApp group. If you're not yet on the WhatsApp group, thank you, Clive, for your offer to help. A lot of things will be announced on the WhatsApp group. If you're not yet on the WhatsApp group, get in touch with either myself or with David, and we will put you on the WhatsApp group. A lot of things will be announced via there, also via email. So if anybody's not on the WhatsApp group, they'll be able to get it via the email, the Shrubs email system. And please God, there'll be lots of things. I have a whole list of ideas of things that we can do. I'd like to see some of the ideas because we spoke about that before, David. We did speak about the fact that we should be doing more things on Zoom. Well, here's our chance because everything's going to be on Zoom. So we'll see how that works out.
I'm looking forward, and hopefully everybody will have just that little bit more time to devote to it. So it will really be worthwhile over the next few weeks. So let's see how we get on. Rabbi, this week's topic comes straight out at the beginning of this week's Sedra.
Yeah.
It is effectively the first instance of somebody being visited after a period of illness in the Bible. But it's not just somebody that comes to visit. It's God himself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which is interesting, is an interesting concept, because that introduces the importance of this this very significant mitzvah, which really has been a mainstay of Judaism for many years. You don't necessarily hear about it so much outside of that context. This obligation, if you like, to go and visit the sick. But this is the first documented instance, is when God visits Abraham as he's just had his bris, and the visit doesn't last very long, does it?
No, the visit is interrupted by some people, and it's interesting to see that how Avraham Avinu basically says to God, "Listen, you just hang on over here. I'm going to go take care of some people, and then I'll come back to you." And God's like, "Well, didn't I just?" You'd almost feel like God's like, "Didn't I just come to visit you? Isn't that, isn't it?" It feels a little bit rude almost, when you knock on by someone's house, you're like, "Hi, I'm here for a visit." "Oh, it's so nice that you come in. Wait, my grandchildren have come. Bye," and slam the door in your face. So it almost feels like that. But there are some very, very important lessons to be taken even from that. Every part of this has important lessons. So I think in this instance, the way that Rashi puts it and the way the Gemara says it is Gedola hachnasas archim, that bringing in guests is greater than Kabbalas Pnei Ashchina, greater even than being able to have and converse with God himself. And there are different ways of explaining it, but I think on the most base level is that God doesn't really need our conversation. And the greatest thing that we can do is, in a way, not so much for us to pay only homage to God, but to be doing good things over here on this world as well. And so if we see that people need us, people need our help, people, whatever it is that they need right now, and we're able to go out and we're able to help them by, in this instance, by doing this case of achnasas archim, so then that's really, really great. And beyond that, there's actually another idea here, and we're going to get into this anyway when we speak about all the ideas of Bikur Cholim, is where does Bikur Cholim actually come from? Yes, we watch God do it, and so it gives us an idea that we should be visiting the sick people. But a lot of chesed, a lot of the ideas of doing for others come from the fact that we say, Mahu af'ata, that the Torah tells us just like God does certain things, we should try to emulate God. And God being a giver, so we also should be givers. God visits the sick, so we should visit the sick. God heals the poor, God gives money to the poor, so we give money to the poor. God heals those that are ill, so we should try to heal them. A lot of the chesed that we do, there's no mitzvah in the Torah that says do good. Rather, the mitzvah is v'davaktaba, or however you want to call the mitzvah of cleaving to God, being like God, trying to have some godliness in our life. And so therefore he says, the greatest way of emulating God is not by conversing with God, is actually by emulating him properly. Just like God came to visit Avraham Avinu in doing a chesed, so to speak, Avraham Avinu now takes that great lesson that he receives from God and pays it forward by now taking care of the guests that he has.
And those guests are otherworldly as well, so they turn out to be Malachim, but at the time Avraham doesn't know that.
Correct. So it wasn't Avraham Avinu giving up. I'm not sure Avraham. It's interesting. It'd be an interesting discussion whether or not Avraham Avinu would give up conversation with God from Malachim, because in that instance they say, hey, these aren't really real guests. These are otherworldly guests. They don't really need my help. But when he's seeing three regular individuals and he says, wow, these people have been traveling through the desert. He's been desperate to have some guests, and he comes and he brings them in. That is a great achievement on Avraham Avinu's part, and his achnasas archim is actually something that he's famous for. He's actually famous for the way he brings in guests and the way he treats guests. And we, as I think, as a Jewish people in general, we've always been known for achnasas orchim. Every city has certain areas and certain people that you can always go to if you needed a meal, or if you always needed a place to stay. You can, they have an open home. I mean, I was in. Go on.
I was going to ask you if that instance was almost a test that God had planned for Avram, that he was there to visit him, and then these guys turn up at the same time.
Sounds interesting, but I've not seen anybody say that, but it is possible that would be a test. But it sounds an interesting idea and an interesting concept. I don't know I've not seen anywhere this idea sort of being mentioned, but that doesn't mean that that it couldn't have been one of Avraham Avinu's tests as well, to see would Avraham Avinu sort of ignore people's plight, or would he take care of the people? Because Avraham Avinu was very ill at the time, but he was desperate to have guests. Avraham Avinu was a man that always wanted to have guests. He always wanted to be able to give to others. And so God had created a situation where no guests were coming past, and Avraham Avinu was really, really upset. And so therefore God engineered it again to make sure that Avraham Avinu did have guests, and that's why he gets these otherworldly visitors.
Fantastic. And that is interesting, because I did a little bit of research on this, but apparently this concept is debated quite heavily as well in the Talmud.
Which concept?
In terms of the concept of Bikur Cholim, and how important that particular mitzvah is. And it's actually part of a debate between Shammai and Hillel as well, as to whether or not you can visit people under certain circumstances on Shabbos and so on. But it's seen as being that there is therapeutic value to visiting people, other than just spiritual value as well, in terms of you interacting with them.
Yes, I mean there are different bits that we speak about in Halacha and in the Talmud about what Bikur Cholim should or shouldn't be doing for a sick person. There is obviously the therapeutic value. There's the prayer value that's added to it, and you're actually helping an individual. There's somebody who's very ill and he's feeling very down. I've seen it myself by going to visit people that you can change the way people feel for weeks at a time. I remember we were in yeshiva. I was about 20 years old at the time, and I was in yeshiva in Israel. And one of the boys in our yeshiva had gotten into a terrible accident. They were driving, and a lorry was coming down the other side, and then wasn't so careful when the lorry wasn't so careful when it turned, and it sort of like got into their lane on a 2-lane. It was a bit of a highway in Israel, but it was two lanes, but it didn't really have any barriers in between, and their car got hit quite badly. And so my friend, he was known as Shulu, Shalom, as Shulu. Shulu ended up in hospital, and we used to go every Motzei Shabbos. We actually went for an organization that used to help people with cancer, Zichron Menachem. We used to go to the hospital, Hadassah in Kerem, every Motzei Shabbos with a friend of ours that played keyboard, and we used to go from room to room, or we used to go to the big room, and we used to gladden the hearts of the kids, and used to sing, and we used to dance with them, and it was a really, really special occasion. And to see those kids come alive was amazing. But we only on one occasion actually ventured into the adult hospital. Normally we just went into the kids ward, and we had a special way in, and then we went in and we set ourselves up, and we knew that at least in the winter for about 7 o'clock we used to get them. We used to leave around 8, and it was great. It was known as Zichron Menachem, and we used to go dancing, and everybody used to come in crazy clothes and used to do crazy things with the kids. It was really beautiful. It was really, really special. And then that one week, Shulu wasn't well, and they said, "All right, guys, we're going to go visit Shulu now." And we're like, "What? It's 8 o'clock at night, and people are going to moan, and they're going to complain, and this is a hospital. Can't just take a keyboard into a regular ward in a hospital and start playing at 8 o'clock at night." And this is Israel, so in Israel people have chutzpah. So they picked up the keyboard anyway, and off we went to Shulu's ward. We found out where he was, and we went to his ward, and we set up the keyboard, and we started singing, and he started singing. And suddenly from all corners, you cannot imagine where people came out of, they were coming from everywhere, religious, irreligious, men, women, and the the absolute feeling of euphoria that was happening in that room at the time was unbelievable. It was just
Yeah.
really, and then at the end of this whole dancing, it was actually a bit strange. One of them says, okay, we're now going to make a mishaberach for cholim, mishaberach for those who are unwell. And as you can imagine, if you're making a mishaberach for those who are unwell in a hospital, it took about 5 to 10 minutes to make mishaberach because everybody there had a name to give. It wasn't like, in our community, like one or two people come up and give you a name. If you're in hospital, you're in hospital because you have somebody there that needs prayers. So after the dancing, we said a tehillim and we did prayers. And for weeks afterwards, literally for weeks afterwards, people were coming over to different people from our yeshiva and saying, are you part of the yeshiva that came and brought the guys to sing and the dance that Motzei Shabbos? You've changed our week. You've changed our month. You cannot imagine the simcha that you've brought to the people here in the hospital. You cannot imagine the difference that you made to the people here in the hospital. And so whilst you think, oh, big deal, I just, I came into the hospital, I sang a few songs. What's the deal? It was then that I learned that the far-reaching consequences, even for adults, even for elderly people, are amazing. They're just unbelievable.
It's I'm just reading some of the comments here, but there's one here from Sheila, and she says, I know it will not be possible to visit the sick and lonely during lockdown. I'm willing to make weekly phone calls if needed. It's interesting because loneliness is perhaps not a physical ailment, but it's definitely one that affects mental health, and not being able to visit people, not being able to have face-to-face interaction is very, very difficult. And this whole sort of period of COVID has been extremely testing, particularly as Sheila says here in her next comment, people can't visit hospital in a regular way, and see people who feel trapped in their times because they don't even get to see their family.
Yeah, it's very sad, and I think these. Sorry, were you in the middle of something? It's just that the reception is sort of slightly, it's not as good as it normally is. So I wasn't sure if you were still in the middle of a sentence there.
No, I finished.
Yeah. All right. Yes. I think phone calls and loneliness is a big thing. I'm not vouching now for the people that do this, and I don't think they were right. But I heard from people that literally said, I have a choice. I could either keep to all the rules, be lonely, and this has a terrible effect on my mental health. I just cannot bear the loneliness. I have to go out. I have to visit people. I don't know if that's true or not, but this person said, I have to go out and I have to visit people. And I'm willing to take a risk on my physical health of contracting COVID rather than definitely bringing down my mental health by becoming depressed by not seeing other people. So again, it's an interesting one. As I said, I'm not condoning that necessarily, but you can understand the logic that people would say that this is an elderly person who's on, they're on their own. And this person said, this is how I feel. I feel it's more important for me to try to take care of my mental health and make sure I don't get depressed, which is definitely going to kill me, rather than, go out and meet with people where, even if I do get COVID, what are the chances?
So that leads us into Clive's question. Because obviously there's a benefit for the person that you're going to go and visit. There's also a benefit for you when you go to these visits. They can sometimes be a bit awkward. It can be visiting somebody who is sick is a little bit like sometimes when you visit a shiva house, you don't quite know what it is you should be saying to that person. It's a very daunting experience when you're sat opposite somebody and you need to fill that void and that silence. And you could talk about the obvious, but you don't want to necessarily talk about the obvious because you need to keep it lighter. You need to give it some benefit.
Yes, I think visiting the sick it's a skill. Like many other things, going to shiva house and comforting people that are mourning is a skill. A lot of these things are skills, and they're things that you pick up over years. It's not something that you say, yeah, I'll go visit a sick person and, I make them feel better. I remember my mother said to me, she went in to visit somebody with a friend of hers. They went to a hospital, and this woman looked absolutely awful that they went to visit. And my mother was like, I don't know what I'm going to say. And her friend Shirley just walked in. She goes, Mrs. So-and-so, you're looking fabulous. How are you? To end the way. But she said it, there was no sort of like, it wasn't being said in a patronizing way. And the woman felt so much better that somebody else just came in and spoke to her normally and didn't, say you're such a nebuch. I don't know if you've seen, I wanted to share it, but I couldn't because my computer now is not, I can't do it on my phone. I was going to share it on my computer. There was actually a video. Maybe later I'll share the link to it in the WhatsApp group, messages from the rabbi. But there was a video that I love that has things not to say when you're on a Bikur Cholim visit. Have you ever seen that video?
I'm not seeing it. No. I'll
No,
see if I can.
It's very funny. Like, you have somebody going, like, for example, you have somebody going through the notes, and as he's reading through the notes, they're like, you're making these faces, and then he looks at me and goes, no, you're absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing alarming there, And really, the thing is, one of the things you cannot do is you're not there to bring doom and gloom to the person that you're visiting. Halach actually says you're not supposed to go in and say that. Even I've had this personally. This is something that's happened to me on more than one occasion. But I remember going to visit Howard Davis, Oliver Sholem. Do you remember Howard? Did you know Howard Davis?
Yeah.
So I remember visiting Howard Davis, Oliver Sholem, and Ian, who was his brother-in-law, said to me on that Monday morning, he said, Rabbi, my brother-in-law's had a bad heart attack. Maybe you should come visit him. I said, no problem. I'll come. I have something on till 10:30. I'll come right after that. And I got in the car and I drove down to Withenshaw Hospital, and I came into the ward with Howard. And I remember I bumped into Howard's wife or some of Howard's family. I can't even remember who it is. And they're like, Rabbi, you cannot come in. I'm like, what? What happened? You're not allowed. I said, why? So they said, everybody knows when the rabbi shows up, it's Ochen Vei. No way you're allowed in. So true story. So I sat in the hall. I didn't get to see Howard. I didn't get to see anyone. Here we go. How not to perform the mitzvah of Bikur Cholim. There it is. I wonder if that's the one.
I will try it for you.
I wonder if this is the one.
Just gonna go visit my friend. 1 second, like really. Okay. So the Rav was talking in shul about actuarial stuff, and everybody was saying, "Oh, wouldn't it have been good if you were there?" And well, I guess you weren't there. So anyway, how you feeling? Oh, good God! Right? No, it's just. I just have to ask. I'm not criticizing, but are you sure you're using good doctors? You're trying to think homeopathic. Not that I'm mixing in. Chas v'shalom, I have full confidence in the doctors you're using. But so this is the biggest room you could get, or are they going to move you into a bigger room? It's not bad. It's just a little small. It's tight. There are alternatives that you should know of. I mean, I know someone who had the exact same illness as you. They used the nectar of a fruit grown in the Amazon, flown in. So who is this quack that's treating you anyway? I mean, have you gotten a second opinion? A third opinion? It was pureed in a process with UV lights. You know what I always say? You can't have enough opinions. Anyway, you're paying yesterday. I was in the DMV. You're not eating this, are you? So the Rav says back to me, and I couldn't. What is? Do they ever change your socks? How are those ice chips treating you? Anyway, I mean, this stuff is really. I know there's a lot of people probably after your car, but look, we've been friends for a while. And I didn't realize being in the hospital makes you very, very hungry. I can only imagine what you're going through lying here. I mean, in another day or two, they said they're going to give you food, right? So I was reading the story about this guy who got, he died and his wife remarried. It's good. Is this helping you? Yeah? Is it good? You think you have problems? Are you kidding me? At work is going crazy. And the way things are going is like clockwork. They don't even know you're not there. I would love to watch the game if you wouldn't mind if I could stay until 4:30. It would be perfect. I mean, we could watch the game together. That would be great, I think. But you know that these things do happen because of Averis. You know what? I just drove out here for an hour. Okay? You're not feeling good? it's not me saying this. The Svarim HaKadoshim have said that illnesses are a direct result of a virus. And I've always wanted to do this. Can I just try it once? Please, just once. It doesn't stop from every area. People are just saying this family will not be a never case. And it's all because of you. What's because I'm a kind of you, Pashut. I'm a kind of you. I stopped by on the way to the Chevra Kadisha. Wonderful, wonderful people over there. And they gave me this Vidoy card. It's laminated. Don't worry about it. I'm just going to leave it here for you. When you're up to it, maybe worthwhile. I was just at a Levaya. What a special person. I just thought this would be inspirational. You know what they say, Nisker Liom Hamisa. You are not a Neba. I noticed the flux capacitor over here. What do they got you on, hemoglobins? Be happy. I'm happy for you. Baruch Hashem, you're in this situation. The Valdik is great. I gotta say, it's a little bit frustrating talking like this. I mean, I feel like I'm having a one-way conversation. How long is that tube gonna be down your throat anyway? Mika Amcha Yisrael, in the 8 months you've been here, there isn't a gemach in town that hasn't been tapped out to help your family out of this terrible time. So it's been 6 months, huh? Yeah. You know what? Look, we all have our things. I got to get my foot checked out. I got a little bit of fungus, I think. It's in between the toes. It doesn't feel good. Hey, yeah. Do you want anything from the cafeteria, or this is not a good time? Yeah, I could tell that. Yeah, okay. I'll be back. All right. Okay.
So that's how it's done badly, right?
Oh, shoot. So I'll be a little bit overdone. But I have some of these things you see people doing. You see people walking in and they say they say the dumbest or the most upsetting thing to people. And it's really, really annoying to watch somebody walk in. Like, there's been times, I'll give you an example. I'm a big believer in this. I've come to visit people. I've driven half an hour to visit someone and I walk in and they're sleeping. I pull a piece of paper out of my pocket. I write them a note. I say, dear whoever it is, I came to visit you. I didn't want to wake you. I hope to see you again. I hope you'll be better soon. And I leave a note behind. Last thing I'm going to do is wake up the person. I often feel like you don't know if this person slept last night. You don't know what this person is going through at the moment. You don't know how much the person needs to sleep or the rest. And for you to wake up the person just because you feel like, I'm the rabbi and I came to visit him now. How dare he not be up when I visit him? I mean, it's not about you. It's about this sick person. So try to sort out anything that he needs. Ask around and ask the nurses, who probably won't tell you anything because of GDPR anyway. But ask them if there's anything you can do to help him. Leave behind your note and then move on, or stay for another 5 minutes. Or some people like fun.
Rodney's got a very amusing tale. Many years ago, when he used to go and visit hospital visiting with the Jewish visiting services, he used to start the conversation with the sick person by asking if they were enjoying the kosher food. By the time the 10th person told me it was rubbish, I had to find another intro.
I must say that Rodney taught me something about that as well. I always say it, and I went with Rodney to Heathlands the first time, and Rodney took me around to meet some of the members because I found I couldn't find them. I didn't know who they were. Like, even if you went into the lounge and like, I'm looking for, I don't know, so and so. I was, I don't know, looking for Sadie Klein or that Sean. And they were like, yeah, she's over there in the corner. And they're like 8 women there. And I'm like, how am I going to find Sadie? So I asked Ronnie, I said, Ronnie, I don't know who these people are. You used to be in charge of Heathlands. You know who the people are. Come with me. And I remember, and I sat down with someone and I said to him, no, so how's it going? Are you enjoying it here in Heathlands? And at the end of the conversation, Rodney pulled me aside. He says, listen, nobody likes it here. Nobody's here by, nobody's here by default. This is not a place that people choose to go to. It's a place people end up at because they have no other choice. And so the question is not, are you enjoying it? The question is more, are you comfortable? And ever since then, I've never asked anyone if they enjoy Heathlands because, it's to be taken for granted that Heathlands is not a great, enjoyable place. Nobody's going there because they want to be there. Not to say that Heathlands is a bad place. I have seen, the care there is phenomenal. but everybody wants to be home. Nobody chooses a nursing home because they want to live in a nursing home. People, as much as possible, want to stay home, and their independence is so important to them. And when you move to a nursing home, then it's sort of a sign that that's the end of the road for your independence. Now somebody else is going to be in charge of you. And it's very, very hard for a lot of people. And understanding that predicament, feeling for them. And when you come into this, whether at the hospital room or whether you're visiting somebody in Heathlands or wherever, even at home, understanding what they're going through, putting yourself in their shoes and trying to help them is very, very important. And understanding that, this is not an enjoyable thing and not sort of making light of it, even that's important to them.
So it's interesting. Sheila says that she has a list of 10 people that she phones on behalf of the Fed, and they are so grateful and look forward to my calls. They're so appreciative of hearing a cheery voice. It is.
Absolutely.
It's good. It's good for morale. It's good for morale. I think that piece of Gemara said that if you go and visit somebody who is sick, apparently every time you visit them, it alleviates them of 1/60th of their pain. Right. According to that piece of Gemara. So if you go 60 times, you're going to cure that person for sure.
Yeah, well, it's always mathematically it's not 100% correct. It's always 1/60th of 59 parts that are left over. But I would also say that I think I'm not sure if that's to be taken literally 1/60th of their pain, or there's something deeper to it within this idea of the 1/60th. But the idea being that a person who is in pain and you go visit them and you help them and you're there for them, it's a huge deal. Even though to you it's not such a big thing. So what? You went to visit someone. It changes their entire week. Some people, they wait an entire week just for somebody to come visit them and to say hello to them and treat them like a human being. They sit at home all day long. They have nothing to do. It's them and the television, or then in their computer. And how often can you scroll through Facebook, and how often can you watch another rerun of a bingo or of a whatever show it is you're going to watch? You want real human contact. You want people to care about you and to pick up the phone and to say, hello, how are you? What's going on in your life? And just to hear what you have to say. And so as Sheila said quite rightly, the fact that you call people up, then that's really, really important. Those people get to understand and to feel there is somebody out there that thinks I am important enough that they will pick up the phone to me and call me, even though I'm not their family.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. Now, Rodney says it's a great mitzvah to go to Heathlands and just say hello and how you doing. It'll make their day if you start to talk to them. It will, and that they're incredibly grateful. But right now that's the real challenge, isn't it? You can't go in there and you can't go and see people face to face. A lot of families, the best that they've had to settle for is these window visits where they're able to see, under some circumstances, able to see their loved one behind a window. But it's heartbreaking, really, because it's just not the same.
It's definitely not. And then you have other people. I know, for example, somebody in shul told me that his mother has Alzheimer's or dementia. I'm not sure which version of it they have. But, she has no idea why her son's not coming to visit her.
Yeah.
She has no clue. And they, as much as they tried to explain to her, listen, there's corona out there, it's for your best, and she's like, but where's my kid? Why is he not visiting me? And they just don't understand. And many elderly people who are not understanding, sadly, because of their condition, they're not understanding what's going on in the outside world. They just can't figure out, why has it been 7 months since somebody's come to say hello to me? They're just so, and they feel like somebody has literally dumped them in a house and said, goodbye, I'm going off. I got other things to do. I don't care about you. And so, by the way, it's not only hard for those family members that are on their own, but it's even extremely hard. I've heard it from a few people in shul. It's extremely hard on those family members who feel the guilt of not being able to visit their loved ones. There's a tremendous guilt that comes with it, where they say, I don't know what to do. I've not been to visit my father, my mother in the last X amount of months. And I feel guilty because they're sitting alone in this nursing home. And as much as I can make phone calls and as much I can try Zoom and everything else, they're still like, but where are you? How come I'm not seeing you? And I can't imagine the the feeling of guilt and pain a child feels in sort of letting down their parent due to no fault of their own.
It's terrible. It's probably one of the biggest challenges of this virus has been the way that it has disconnected sections of the family, but particularly how it's disconnected elderly. I mean, holding grandchildren back from visiting their grandparents. It's, you know, if you ever hear a grandparent kvel about their grandchildren, you'll know how painful that will be to not be able to sort of that visit, and that contact.
Yeah, it was not. I mean, the visit, and even when they had the visits, I remember hearing on the radio again and again grandparents saying the hardest thing for me was not to be able to hug my grandchildren. You know, even when the grandchildren came to visit when it was legal and they came into the garden and everybody waved to grandma or to grandpa and it was really, really nice. We could spend time together. But the fact that the physical contact is missing, and as human beings, we crave physical contact from our loved ones. We want to feel not just loved over the phone. You want to get a hug. You want to get a kiss. You want someone to shake your hands. You want somebody to hold your hands. And all those things are things that cannot happen now currently under Corona. And they've been missed by people in a terrible, terrible way.
So what is the best that we can do in the meantime?
I think the best we can do in the meantime is, I think, you know, it's interesting. Because we're going back into a greater lockdown, I think we need to sort of up our game. But it is about picking up the phone. I guess you call people up, picking up the phone to them, you know, finding out who those people are. And if people are willing to make phone calls, that'd be lovely. You know, please get in touch with us. We have a long list of people. There are a lot of people that are quite okay for themselves. You know, when I called through a lot of people before Rosh Hashanah, and many of them said, we have our children around the corner, everything's okay, we're all taken care of. Many of them also have their own spouses. So even though they're elderly, they have a spouse, and they felt like, you know, I have someone to talk to. I'm not in this terrible state of loneliness. However, there were some people that you called and you felt they kept you on the phone for 20 minutes just because they were so excited to hear another human voice. And, you know, we have enough people within the shul that be absolutely overjoyed to get a phone call from somebody within the shul. That doesn't have to be necessarily the rabbi. I'm sure they'll be happy to hear from the rabbi as well. But it's not, you know, it's funny, actually, a lot of people that I call, especially elderly, they get very nervous about my time. You call them up and you ask them how they're doing. Rabbi, I don't want to keep you. You must be so busy. Thank you very much, Shana Tova. And I'm like, but I called to spend time with you. You know, I'm like, no, I'm not. It's fine. No, Rabbi, don't worry about it. Thank you so much for calling Shana Tova. And it's sort of like within 3 minutes, the phone's back down.
I bet in some cases it's daunting to be called by the rabbi.
It could be. It could be. And it might be easier actually for a good friend to call them, or for somebody within the shul whom they know to call them, because they'll be like, you know, what am I going to say to the rabbi? You know, I don't want to speak to him. And I know there were a lot of people within the shul that my wife called and said, because I felt, you know, my wife would do a better job, you know, as a woman, especially from woman to woman, there would be a much, much greater feeling of gratitude and whatever else it is, because somebody has reached out to them that they feel more comfortable talking to. And my wife also, we had tremendous, not just feedback, but a lot of people I heard, you know, again and again through you, through Ian, through other people. Oh, my grandmother got a phone call from you, or my cousin got a phone call. They're so thankful, etc. And again, a lot of these phone calls were less than 5 minutes long. These phone calls did not take a long time, but people felt appreciated, and people felt that somebody cares about me. I'm not just somebody living by myself. People care enough about me that somebody out of the blue will pick up the phone unsolicited and just call me up and say, hello, how are you? How are you doing? Would you like to talk? Is there anything I can help you with? So I think, you know, and I think if anybody is willing to help out with that, please, you know, come forward, especially now for the next month as lockdown is going to be stronger. Come forward. You know, we have plenty of people that, you know, we'll work it out. Okay, we'll have to see about, I think we had the conversations within health and safety, whether people need to have a DBS for phone calls. I think we decided for phone calls there was no need for DBS because that wasn't considered, that's not considered anything where we're worried about the safety of other individuals. For visits For visits, somebody would need to have a DBS check, so that's just a regular legal requirement. I've had it done. Other people that do Bikur Cholim visits for us have had it done. That's just a standard requirement that we would, we were required. At the moment, visits aren't on from the shul anyway. But if you wanted to make phone calls, please, get in touch. We're very happy to give you some names of people that you know, specifically, I guess. And the best thing will be to call people that you know, not to call people that you don't know. Because if you pick up this phone and say, "Hi, my name is, whatever, make up a name. Hi, my name is David from the shul. I'm just calling to see how you're doing. David, I've not heard you. I don't know who you are. I've never met you." It's a bit awkward. But if they get a phone call from their friend Clive and they know exactly who Clive is, "Hi, it's Clive. I'm just calling to see how you're doing," it really means something to them. And we can give people the strength to make it through this lockdown. It's going to be a difficult time for a lot of people. And I think, by the way, I would add to that. Whilst we're speaking about Bikur Cholim, there is another dimension to this, and it's a dimension that we didn't speak about, but because we spoke about mental health slightly, we did touch on it. There are people that are struggling financially because their business has just gone to pots. There's nothing left of it. It's gone pear-shaped. What the government is giving them either is not helping them or they're really struggling. And for somebody to pick up the phone and either to say, "Listen, I know things are tough for you. Is there anything I can do to help you?" Or to even offer financial assistance, as in a loan or as in something else, to say, "Look, I understand that things are hard for you. I'm happy to lend you money until you get back on your feet. And then we'll try to, you can try to give it back to me in time, whatever you can manage." That's a huge mitzvah as well. And that will, that's like this Bikur Cholim. Because Bikur Cholim is really, people make a big fuss about Bikur Cholim in that, it's visiting the sick, but it's an arm of the idea of chesed. And any chesed that we do specifically to people in this instance of Corona that are struggling, that are really having a hard time. So again, whether it is that financial assistance you can give to other people, or whether it's just a phone call, or whether it's giving people a job, or whether it is giving people some kind of advice to be able to help them to make it through this difficult period, it will be extremely appreciated by those people that are, that are there, that need that help.
So I'm just going to address some of the comments. I just want to go back to some that we missed. So Sheila said that, yes, it's extremely hard for those with dementia. By the time that you can visit, they may not know who you are. So very sad for family and friends. Clive said the virus is having major impact on all our well-being, old and young. And he then goes on to say that 75% of all communication is non-verbal, and we're missing that physical interaction with people as well. Now, these two comments, Phil has said, we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, to ask the office to advise who to call or to drop a challah into. And Clive has said many of us have already offered but have not been taken up. So, yes, going back before Yom Tov, actually, before Rosh Hashanah, a lot of people volunteered to make calls. But luckily, the rabbi and the rebbitzin made their way through those calls themselves.
Yeah. I think before Rosh Hashanah was important to us, that it was important to me and important to Miriam that we not sort of like shift off half the phone calls on other people and as the rabbi and the rebbitzin actually make those phone calls to people. I think now that it's after Rosh Hashanah, it's still important for us to make phone calls. But I think during Elul, between Miriam and I, we made at least 200 phone calls between the two of us. And I'm quite happy to palm off some of those phone calls. And the truth is, there are plenty of people on that list that said to me at the time, "Rabbi, it's okay. You don't need to call me again. We're doing fine." And I kept notes of the people that I called and who I felt really appreciated and needed the extra chizuk, and who felt like, "I'm quite okay. I really appreciate your phone call. If you call me again, I'm not going to hang up the phone on you, but I'm not expecting another phone call either." So, but I think now is a time to really sit down and try to rejuvenate that and to give out those phone numbers to other people and to get people to make those phone calls.
So, and I think, Clive, this is probably going to take part of a little bit of our virtual arc philosophy, if you like. It's all encompassing. So we're going to be giving people content to connect them, but we're also going to be helping people to connect with other shul members. So your kind offer of calling people will be taking you up on that. And Sheila, again, I know you've offered many times, as have other people. We will definitely be calling on you because it sounds like you've got some great experience there, particularly Sheila's experience with the ongoing work with the Fed. And I know that Clive, obviously. Clive's brought up another thing as well. which we've mentioned before, and people keep bringing it up, but I think it's going to form part of the rabbi's daily regime. But Clive is suggesting that we should phone people on the outsides, as they're not able to get into shul now to say Kaddish.
Yeah. So, I mean, the other thing that Clive had suggested, which came on the email, was to make maybe some kind of like memorial prayer or yahrzeit weekly thing where everybody who has yahrzeit gets a message and say, we're going to do something in memory of those who have yahrzeit this week. We're going to see what we're going to do, whether it's a phone call to the people who have yahrzeit in the beginning of the week, or whether it is on the day of the yahrzeit. It might be difficult to be able to catch everybody on the day of the yahrzeit. So it might be better just to say Sunday is going to be the day where, you take it out, and then to work through it, and to work through that list, to wish people Chaim Aruchim, that people should feel that, again, that the shul is there for them, and that the shul wants them to feel cared for. And that's an important part of what we do as a shul, and I think it's a very, very important thing for us to be able to do.
So Michael Laurie, hi Michael. Is it possible to set up a WhatsApp support group for people to opt into? This could allow people to post requests for help and to get members to help. This could be for errands or for other small tasks, but also allow people to post offers of help, such as job opportunities, etc. Michael's part of a similar community group, and it works very well. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean, you'd need to pass this through health and safety, because there are safety and safeguarding issues within that. So I can't just say, yes, I mean, it's great, it's wonderful. I commend you for the work that you do, Michael. The question is, can we as a Shrubberies allow that and facilitate it? It's something we need to speak to our health and safety and safeguarding team, who will advise us on how to go about doing that, and make sure that whoever is in this group has been vetted, and then that, no vulnerable people will be sort of. I understand that people want to go out and people want to help, and I really appreciate the offer of help. But sometimes the people that want to go out and help, not in your case, Michael, but that there are people that want to go out and help that are not as, what would we say, innocent, as I would say in your case. And so therefore you never, as a community, we have, on the one hand, a responsibility to help those people that need help, but also a responsibility to keep those people that need help safe. So it is something that we'll have to see how we go about doing it, and how we make sure that it's done in a safe way, but also that we can be efficient about helping other people. The other thing that I would say is, and this is a real issue, is that many of the elderly people that need help don't have WhatsApp. And so they won't be able to post in and say, oh, I need X, Y, and Z doing for me, because they just don't have that tool of communication.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be thought through, and this is why, over the course of the next week, we need to consider what vehicle we use to, to communicate with people if we are going to do this virtual arc, in terms of the different things that we're going to be doing and the different people that will be interacting. I can imagine that there's going to be documents that we'll be sharing, so there may be texts or sources that we'll be sharing, but there'll also be information that we need to get out there, and also, a way for people to perhaps exchange messages and communicate with one another. So there are a number of different online options, but we need an option as well that will include our older members who may not be so tech savvy or be able to sort of navigate their way around that. But we will get to that. It's interesting. I've just had a text message from Deborah Foster, who is also, I believe, works for the Fed as well.
Yeah.
And Deborah touches on, she wanted me to ask Sheila about whether or not Sheila gets any sort of benefit from, the calls that she makes to those people that she's calling on behalf of the Fed. But there is that reciprocation, isn't there? You do get, whether you're doing it for that reason or not, you are going to get some sort of feel-good feeling from this.
Oh, there's definitely a feel-good feeling in it. And I think many times the feeling that the person who gives sometimes is greater than the feeling of the person who receives. I mean, if you think of parents, I think, enjoy giving to the children more than sometimes the children even enjoy receiving it. I've seen parents, they're desperate to give to the children. Can I get you this, and can I get you that, et cetera, et cetera. When the children are like, no, Mom, I'm okay. So the children aren't even desperate to take it, and the parents are just so desperate to give. And those people who are giving, you really get a tremendous amount from it. It's not just a feel good factor. You feel good, you've done something, and you feel that you've done something productive. You've done something, in your day, as you've helped another human being. You've helped them feel as a valued person. You've helped them not feel lonely, whatever it is. That feeling is a great feeling, and it's something that it's very hard to somehow build up or create that feeling any other way. And we need to be proud of the fact that we can give those feelings to someone else. And I think chesed is something that sort of, it depends what it is. It's something that you learn to love. Some people don't like it, and the more they do it, the more they like it. So originally, when they go out visiting sick people or elderly, this is boring, it's not so nice. But when you learn who these people are and you learn to give to these people, you start to realize that actually this is a wonderful thing that you're doing, not just for them, for you. It's a wonderful opportunity that you've been given to give to people in such a meaningful, beautiful way.
So Sheila agrees. Yes, I do. It helps me as I'm living on my own, even though I have friends and family. It gives me joy to know that I'm helping somebody. So she completely echoes what you've just said. Laura Greenberg, good evening, Laura. Nice to hear from you. My cousins in Edinburgh look after their elderly community via the shul. Maybe worth our shul getting some ideas from them. Any tips, any help? We will never be shy about asking for help. So if you've got any information, if you've got any ideas, we will make sure there is a place for them. But please do get in touch, Laura. That would be great. Fantastic. So, Rabbi, we're almost on an hour now. So I'm going to hand over to you to close.
All right. I guess we'll close with what we've been speaking about a lot today, and that is the idea of giving is we learn in this week's Sedra that giving is one of the most godly things that we can do. God is a giver. Everything that we have, we get from God. So God is the ultimate giver. And in our quest to emulate him, giving is one of those great things that we can do. And whether it is giving by giving up of your time, giving up your resources, giving people love, and just those things that you can do. Bikur Cholim is just an example, as we said before. It's a great example, a very important example, but it's not the be-all and end-all of chesed, and there are many, many other opportunities in chesed that exist out there as well. And if you can find a way to give to other people, and you'll get so much more from giving to others than they will almost be receiving from you. You turn into the recipient instead of turning into the giver. And if you can become a giver in a way where you feel that you're actually the recipient and they're actually the giver to you, that's true giving. That's something to be looking forward to. And please God, now throughout this next few weeks, when we set this topic, we didn't even know that the circuit breaker was coming. It was just because Bikur Cholim is an important topic anyway. And now that the circuit breaker is coming, it's even more important and even more vital for us to mobilize as a community and try to make sure that the elderly, the vulnerable, the lonely in our community feel that they have somebody out there that cares for them. And you can be that person that can give that other person, that other individual, their humanity back. So it's not a hard mitzvah. It doesn't take that much time from you, but it's going to be so rewarding for you and so rewarding for the people that you do it for. Please step forward and be willing to help us out with this. We have plenty of people that need help. If we don't, if we run out of people that need help, I'm sure the Fed will have more people. We won't run out of people that need help. Sadly, there'll always be people that will need our help. Let's do our utmost to give help and to help all those people. And together we can make sure that, there'll be no more lonely people.
I'll be making some contact with Clive Moss-Barkley tomorrow. We're going to discuss, he doesn't know this yet, but we're going to be discussing the format for this new thing, because I can envisage that we now need, if we're asking people to step forward, we're going to need some sort of a messaging system to sort of get everybody's input and to be able to communicate with everybody fairly quickly. Maybe a Facebook group, maybe something like that, but we will see. In the meantime, I want to wish you all well. It's very, very important that you all stay safe and you all adhere to the new guidelines. This week there's going to be fresh guidelines for pretty much different types of businesses, schools, shuls. Most of that's already a foregone conclusion. We already know about it, but there are going to be more government announcements, I think, in the run-up to Wednesday, and some final doing and throwing. So please do look out for that. And yes, keep in touch.
Thanks very much. Take care. Have a good night.
Have a good week.